Hello, welcome to Akron Local News. I'm George Carter, and as you know, we paint positive images for our people every day. Today is no exception, and I am honored to have with me today the President of City Council, Ms. Margo Sommerville. How are you, Margo?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming down. We want to spend as much time as possible getting our local people in touch with the people who make decisions in the city of Akron. And you are one of those primary individuals, and you're doing a great job, by the way. You started out as Ward 3 council person, correct?
That is correct, and I am still currently Ward 3 council person.
Okay.
I also just serve as president of Akron City Council.
Oh, awesome. Now, you were born and raised right here in Akron, I take it. And you left for some education. Where'd you go to school?
So I left and went to Lincoln University, which
Okay.
is a historically Black college.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely an advocate for HBCUs. This played a huge part in my success.
Absolutely.
And wanted to come back to Akron and to share my talents, with the city in which I grew up in. So.
Great, yeah. I mean, you had your alumni there is magnificent. Thurgood Marshall. Who else came out of Lincoln?
Thurgood Marshall, Langston Hughes, our very own Judge Rulat from Akron was also a graduate of Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. Yes.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment then to be a part of that background.
Yes.
Yeah. So now the things that are going on in Akron have been just earth-shattering in so many ways to so many people. Policing is a primary issue that's on the table right now, and it seems like we're at a quandary about exactly how to go forth and make things better, or at least a more safe society when it comes to policing. And I understand you're making some headway in that case. I know that the mayor had put forth a proposal that required investment of approximately $640,000 to get some outside people to come in and take a look at what was going on and how to make it better. Most everyone I spoke with seemed to think that, number one, that's an extraordinary price tag. And number two, why be so disconnected from the community in order to get these answers? There's no one more suited to understand what's going on than people who are close to the city. So I understand there's some new developments. Is there something you can tell us about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Mayor Malik did put a proposal out that we would hire Paul Weiss, 21 CP, and Loretta Lynch to do a use of force review. When Mayor Malik originally presented the idea, he asked me to sponsor the piece.
Okay.
And I agreed to be a sponsor on the piece, right? I think sometimes just because I saw what was happening in the community when we saw the killing of Jayland Walker, we saw what happened with Jasmine Tucker, and you get this urge to say, hey, we've got to do something.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so here was a proposal in front of us, and it just was like, okay, let's do it, right? Because we got to do something.
Right.
It really was not until I began to really talk with my constituents, who then began to kind of challenge me to say, Margo, does this really make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
We have local talent right here in Akron that can help us address our own issues and problems. Right. I then began to do my own research and had reached out to a firm that does this across the country. They work with police departments and they do investigations. They review their use of forces. And basically they told me we were being overcharged. And it was at that moment in time that I went to the mayor and expressed my concerns and shared with him that I could no longer be a sponsor on the piece because, number one, I didn't think this was the right direction that we needed to go in with 21 CP and Loretta Lynch and Paul Weiss. And then also just because the price tag was so high.
Right.
When we think about all that's happening, in our city and in our country, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is so unknown right now, know?
Very much so.
We don't know if, our city is going to get cuts in terms of our federal dollars.
Funding.
You know?
High probability.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
you know? And so we have to be cautious about, how we spend taxpayers' dollars.
Correct. Yeah.
Also when we talk about really trying to do police reform, that is an investment.
It is.
And after a report comes back, there's recommendations. And it takes money to make those recommendations a reality.
Correct.
And so all of those things were concerns with the original proposal.
Yeah. And one of my biggest concerns was the fact that, okay, we spend this $640,000 and they give a book full of suggestions.
That's right. And Akron City Council, the majority of council members were committed to making sure that we look at our use of force, but not just limiting it to use of force. We need to look at other areas too. Use of force is only one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
Again, it's going to take us looking and making reform and change in other areas to really make an impact.
There has to be a limit on, there should be someone to say, hey, no, wait a minute. We're not going to pay for that. We're not going to accept that behavior. And you are no longer welcome on the force if you continue to do these sorts of things. And that's what I don't see, and that's unfortunate. The fact that we're willing to put up with, and I won't say I will say there are some factions that are willing to put up with behavior that is less than professional and less than conducive to a safe society.
That is correct. And I think we have to make it clear, right, is that in Akron, we do have a certain standard that we want our Akron police officers to operate at, right? And when they do not, right, it is the responsibility of our mayor to make sure those officers are held accountable. Listen, we have a lot of great officers in the city of Akron who are doing great, doing a great job. And so, we want to celebrate the good officers, celebrate the accomplishments, the great things that they're doing. But those who are the bad apples, we've got to address them.
Correct.
We got to address them.
Yeah.
And so again, council leadership has had a conversation with the University of Akron.
Yeah.
We were really excited about that conversation because we saw a real opportunity for the University of Akron to help us not just look at our use of force and to help us with that review. One of the things that I thought was very interesting that we didn't hear about from the other proposal is that the professor who heads up the Criminal Justice Studies Department says...
Lacat, is that his name? How do you pronounce it?
His name is Dr. David Lacat.
Lacat, okay.
He says, when we come in, we don't just look at use of force. We look at 3 different areas, which I thought was good because, again, it goes back to that whole concept. It's a puzzle piece, and we've got to look at multiple pieces in order to get real change.
Correct.
And so I was really interested in hearing that, we're going to look at use of force, but we're also going to look at 2 other areas, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a historical analysis of the past 8 years of what's been happening in the space of these 3 areas, which I think is important. We got to have some historical context in terms of how we got here.
Correct. And when you see the course that's been traveled, it becomes clear as to where we started and where we're headed. And perhaps you can show where those problems that caused us to go in that direction came from. So that's the analysis portion of this is a key factor to understand, like you say, how the heck did we get here?
How did we get here? How did we get here? And I think the other thing that was really encouraging is that, once we do the analysis, once they diagnose what the problem is and they provide us with the recommendations, right? They're not just going to leave a report, on our desk and say, City of Akron Police Department, figure it out.
Right. They're here.
The professor said, hey, listen, we're then going to put together a team with you guys and help you find solutions to implement these recommendations, which to me was the best thing that I had heard because, and I think you mentioned that, a lot of people were concerned. Oh, we've done so many reports and so many recommendations that haven't been implemented.
Right.
So for us, this was an opportunity to say, hey, listen, the University of Akron, they're going to help us make these recommendations into real change. And it's something that we're not going to just do for 6 months to a year, but to really develop a relationship with the university so that we can do this work ongoing for the long term.
Because it's an ongoing process.
That's it.
It's an ongoing process. As societies grow and develop and get larger, things change. The dynamics of any society changes as we grow, and you have to have a dynamic answer to those problems because it changes as we develop. So those are all good reasons to go with the University of Akron.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is that here is this department who has been working with other police departments around the state,
exactly.
Helping them, but not really ever having an opportunity to actually help in their own city.
Right.
And I think it speaks a lot, when you are here, you are aware of the challenges.
You see day to day exactly what's going on.
That's
and
right.
How things can be changed for the better.
And I think your end work product really comes out stronger because, the professor, the interns, the students, listen, they live here, they go to school here, they work here. They got a vested interest in Akron. They want Akron to be successful. They want Akron to be great.
Right.
And that's what this is all about. And the bottom line is that the university is willing to help us do this work for 85 to 90% less than what was originally proposed.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
So again, we see this as a real opportunity for us to move forward, to be able to be intentional about really bringing change in the city of Akron. And they're willing to also do what we think is really important, and that is our community engagement. Again, we can't do this work, we can't have these conversations without talking to the community, without talking to the police, without having our FOP president at the table, right? It's got to be a collaborative process. And we've got the university that is capable, experienced, and that can help us do this work.
So there's so many reasons that this is a positive idea. I'm excited about it. I'm excited because, I've been seeing a lot of you lately because I've been coming to a lot of the city council meetings. And by the way, you're doing a fantastic job. I just love the way you, do your thing on the podium. And I'm impressed.
Thank you.
So.
And so again, this is a proposal that we have on the table. And so we're open and we want to hear from the community because again, if there's other partners that we need to bring in to help us do that work, let's talk about that. That's a possibility too, Again, we want to be able to do this work collaboratively with the mayor and the administration. I think that, again, that is important.
Okay.
And so we continue to hope to be able to have further conversations with the mayor and the administration.
Okay, and hopefully with us as well, because I look forward to keeping the community informed on what's going on. And I want to thank you so much for having the time to come down and speak with us and keeping us informed on exactly how things are going to City Council. And this excites me more than any news that I've heard so far. And I think we're headed in the right direction. I think that I hope everyone takes this information properly. I briefly looked at the mayor's response to that, and perhaps I'll put it in some of the comments earlier, but it looks like if everyone gets on the same page and sticks to a solid program of moving forward for the best interest and safety of the community, that we should be able to make progress at a great rate. And I can't thank you enough for being the one that initiates such huge miles of progress.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And you got to invite me back.
I definitely will. You're invited as of right now.
Okay,
so you have an open invitation. Anytime you have anything to say, give me a call. We'll get you on the schedule and we will expedite any information that you have to get out there. So once again, Margo, Madam President, I still feel,
Margo,
I know, but that makes me feel so uncomfortable because you have such an important job that you carry. And I see the intensity with which you provide your service, and you are committed to a better Akron. That's what I love about the situation. You're doing a great job. So again, thank you, people, for watching. We are here to provide you with the very best information, and we look forward to seeing and doing it again. And you can find us akronhiphop.com and also reporternewspaperonline.com. Thank you. Have a good evening.
This has been a podcast from the Mecca Media Social Media Network.
Hello, I'm George Carter with Akron Local News. As you know, we're down here every day getting information out to the community by way of the Reporter newspaper and the reporternewspaperonline.com. If you have some advertising material that you would like to get out to the public, this is the perfect conduit to do it. The Reporter newspaper and the reporternewspaperonline.com covers quite an area and quite a few people. As you can see, we're down here now in pre-production. We have Miss Phoenicia in the background getting ready for her program. And if there's some things that we can advertise for you through the reporternewspaperonline.com, give us a call at 330-535-7061. And that information will be distributed to the community post haste. Thank you.